welcome. This is This Day with BJ Arnett. I want to thank you for joining us. I don't take it lightly that you would allow me into your home, invade your space. Okay, I'm going to push you down the couch now because I got something to tell you about. I want you to sit up, get alert. There is something wonderful that happens inside of you when you have a great idea. But a great idea is nothing without you putting your work to it. Now, I've got a lady in front of me right now who has done exactly that. She's an innovator. She is an inventor. She is I don't know, she's just a brainy lady. That's all I can tell you. And her brain always tends to go towards beauty. And I like that. Welcome to the program. I want to thank you so much, Eva, for being here. You have revolutionized an industry for women, and we just love it. But I personally love your backstory of how and why this little woman decided, hey, I can do this. You've been a makeup artist in all kinds of film and television. You're a two-time Emmy Award winner of celebrity makeup. You are a filmmaker. You're an entrepreneur. You're an innovator. You're an inventor. And the name of your book, you're also an author, is Innovative Beauty. Yes. And I want to say this for all the women out there watching, we do have to be innovative some mornings to get the face right and the body together.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a blessing.
It's such a blessing to have you here. You are an incredible wealth of information. I had no idea how many inventors were in Atlanta and were women. And I have been meeting over the last few years just so many women who have invented such wonderful things. We are in Atlanta, Georgia, where Spanx happened to be created, you know?
Definitely, Sarah Blakely.
And she really revolutionized that industry. But you have now revolutionized this industry called makeup with this little invention called the makeup bullet.
Yes.
This bullet that I just used on my face to put my foundation on earlier that really worked so well. But the backstory of the how and the why and how God shifted you and moved you and all the things you had to go through, the crying, the struggles. Everybody thinks that, you know, when we see the book and we see how beautiful you look on the front and you know, you're all smiles, we don't think of all the work that it takes to grow the business that God placed in your heart. Tell us about the journey. I know the makeup bullet, but tell me about the journey.
Well, when it comes to inventing, I've always had lots of product ideas. I mean, my mind just kind of goes that way. You have a problem, you're like, ooh, if there was a... But finally, when the makeup bullet, as it came to me, a sponge that fits on your finger, when it popped into my subconscious, into my conscious, I was like, wow, I wonder, is this a thing? Because organization is always a challenge. When I'm doing makeup...
That creative mind takes over. Oh, my goodness.
Everything is spread out all over the place. And it came to me while I was on set. I was doing makeup. It was a live program. Hard deadline, you got to get the person out of your chair and on the set. There's no grace. And I was panicking because out of all the melee, I couldn't find where I put my blending tool, my sponge. And the lady was sitting in my chair and she's looking at me and she's getting a little nervous and I can feel her energy. And I'm like, oh my goodness, where's my sponge? Did it bounce off on the floor? Where is it? And all of a sudden the idea, it hit me. It said, if my sponge was on my finger, attached to my finger, that'd be one less thing I'm looking for. And I was like, whoa.
That's a good one. See, he'll give you these ideas that you take for granted.
Yeah.
But you didn't take it for granted.
Now, I did for a while.
Oh, she's telling it, y'all.
Because of fear. That was the thing. It was, I got an amazing idea, but then all of the doubt kind of came after that.
Disbelief,
And I'm like, well, how could I do that? That's kind of a high thought, something that doesn't quite exist. Now, there's products on the market where you can mix up a cream. You think, oh, it should have these ingredients. But for something that didn't, like manufactured, wasn't something that I could just kind of get ready-made, I didn't quite know how to go about that.
So how did he nudge you to do it. Because as I said, you know, we come to hear these great ideas in our head and into our heart, and we stop.
Yeah.
Like you said, by fear. What did God do to finally get you to move you to do it?
God works through people.
Yeah,
and he also works in his timing. So for me,
I love it.
When I had the idea, I didn't have enough confidence to make it happen, and I kind of wanted to get somebody else to validate it.
Wow.
So I asked a friend who was in the industry a lot longer than me what she thought of it, because I said, oh, she's an expert. And she just kind of gave me a lukewarm response about it, just like, I don't know if I'd like that or not. And I was like, well, if it's not super amazing to this one person, then maybe it's not amazing.
It's not the one.
And I said, well, maybe I just, you know, shouldn't do this. And years went by. And I say to this day that I believe God blinded the minds of everybody else in the world so that I could get the confidence built up, and it would be the right timing for me to launch out.
Wow.
So fast forward a number of years, I was on a panel with, it was a makeup panel to other makeup artists, and there was a woman on the panel who worked for a company that manufactured beauty tools. And I was like, oh, this is just like, she's in that space, like maybe I should ask her what she thinks. Again, seeking validation.
Exactly, because God's saying it in our head and our heart just doesn't get it. It doesn't. We don't necessarily move when we hear it.
Yeah, not necessarily.
No.
And when I met with her, what she told me kind of opened my mind a bit more. And it was a few years later. By this time, I'd gotten married. You know, my husband was very supportive. He's just like, whatever you're trying to do, I'm behind you, you know. And she said, Eva, I've been to beauty shows worldwide. I've never seen anything like this. She said, you could be sitting on a gold mine. You need to do this like yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
And that spark, you know, just gave me the motivation to say, you know what? I've sat on it this long. If I do nothing and somebody else comes out with it and it's amazing, then I am going to be kicking myself
all the time.
So I said, okay, I'm going to try. And I just proceeded to make phone calls. I'm like, who do I call? I said, well, it's made of foam. I will call manufacturers who make foam. I want it to feel a certain way. So I vetted a lot of materials. I wanted it to be made domestically because I wanted to be able to visit and have that control. And from the time that I first met her in January till December, I had my first prototype in 2012. And that following May, I was at a beauty show in New York launching my product to the world. And it sold out by the beginning of day 2 of the show. They were gone.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
When you take a look at that, how really it did happen fast once you gave into it.
Exactly.
It really did. But then, you know, it's the technological side of it, I think, that makes you go, whoa. You had to go figure out what kind of sponge was the right sponge. Now, that may sound like a little something, but I've had sponges, the triangle sponges, that just have disintegrated. Crumbled. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want the sponges that immediately they smell, like one usage. I'm like, what is that? And I don't want the sponge that has that almost smooth feel to it.
Yeah, and it has no grab, no tack to it.
Right, I'm like, oh, that's creepy feeling.
And I had a textiles background. I was a fashion major. So when I started to talk to the manufacturers, it came full circle. A lot of that terminology that I learned in my science classes. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. When they talked about tensile strength, when they talked about you know, how now I'm going back.
How porous and how stretchy.
All of that. And just the different variation in foam, I was able to kind of talk to them and understand what they were saying. And of course, learned a little bit more along the way. But it was about stepping out and actually making the calls and doing, and then everything started to fall into place.
But you step out. What do you do first? Because there are women and men out there who are saying, I've sat on this idea forever. I don't have $1 million. It's going to cost $1 million to do this. I don't know everyone. How am I going to access? So what's the first thing that you should do when you come to one of these great ideas, or you listen to God saying, this is a great idea?
Well, one thing that I encourage people to do is to do research, of course. You know, the internet is a wealth of
Yes, it is.
of opportunity to educate yourself. Now, NDAs, non-disclosures.
Yes.
When you talk to people, find people in the industry. Find somebody that maybe invented something or did something that similar to what you want to do. But bear in mind that if God gave you that dream, that vision, they might not have the same enthusiasm.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
So that you won't hear your friends say, oh, well, yeah, it sounds okay.
Because they're coming from their own place.
Right.
You know, what God gives to you isn't necessarily, and even when I got, you know, the from one and the oh my God from another,
Right.
still I'm left I have to make the decision and I have to move forward. But even if your idea isn't the best, I still encourage people to move forward with that finding out. Just because once you start to make those phone calls, once you do those internet searches, God opens up your mind to other things. You say, oh, well, maybe I'm not going to do exactly this way, but I'm going to do it this way. Because as you start to do, say, market research and focus groups, I did a focus group and included my first friend that I went to.
Yes.
Once she had it in her hand and she used it,
the difference.
she said, oh my gosh, she said, I love this.
Yeah.
How can I help? So I look at that in that it wasn't the time when I first came up with it, because I had a little bit of time to save up some money to launch out a little better into the venture. And I was more mature and I was ready and I had a better support system. So I don't look back. I just look at, okay, where I am right now in this moment is where I'm supposed to be. I can't have regret about what I didn't do. Because there were other invention ideas that I had that somebody didn't do. That I've seen.
But somebody else did.
But it was, I'm like, good for them.
Right.
Because this was for me.
It's something so great in recognizing where you are, what your timing is, and how you're supposed to move when you hear it is time to move. When people want to get a real understanding of what God is saying, sometimes they need to hear the testimony of others. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted you here, because I've met so many women and men who always say to me, I have a great idea to put on the market, but I just don't know what to do. And the overwhelming thing that I hear in what you're saying is start.
Yes.
Just start.
Just start.
And Google is your friend. You can research.
Search, and, you know, people are willing to help, you know. I've encountered, and there's some people who are going to doubt. There's going to be that, but don't give up, because if you give up, then the process definitely stops.
Everything crumbles.
Everything.
When people want to get your book and they want to get to know more about all of the products, because you have other beauty products that I used all today. I used my bullet, and I used
the Eva Jane silicone detail angle.
Yes, the Eva Jane.
The brush.
The brush. Like, that was so much easier for me to move fast. We like moving fast to get it done.
My mission, making beauty easier, because as my life has gotten more complicated with children, with careers and activities, it's like I don't want to spend all that time in the makeup mirror in the morning. I want to get it done.
I thank you for being the innovator, the visionary behind so many wonderful beauty products. Tell people how we can get to you on your website.
EvaJaneBeauty.com.
EvaJaneBeauty.com. It can't get any easier than that, y'all. And I can give you testimonies. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. EvaJaneBeauty.com.
Thank you.